Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Created Economy Podcast. I am your host, Ken Young. Normally, I would be joined alongside my friend, Greg Narain, but he's over in New York right now at NFT NYC. So if you are there, be sure to say hi to him. So let's get started. This is the Created Economy Podcast. It's been a while since we've been here, but we have an exciting guest in store for you today. This is our weekly interview series where we chat with the key players around the creator economy at large and discuss the topics impacting the growth of the industry. You can find us on Wednesdays, new episodes on Wednesdays, and be sure to check out more about the show on our website at createdeconomy.com. We are also curating all the latest news around the creator economy on our Flipboard profile. You can check that out at flipboard.com/@createdeconomy. And while you're on the internet searching for us, be sure to check us out and give us a follow at Twitter at Created Economy, and like and subscribe on YouTube at Created Economy. And for those that are actually listening to this or actually watching this on YouTube, you can actually download every episode that we've had. Right now, I think we're at 48 episodes that we've published. You can check out all of those episodes on your favorite podcasting app. Those are out there now. Check out amazing talks from VCs, entrepreneurs, creators, and builders alike. And we are interested in hearing more from you. So if you want to be a guest, be sure to check us out and sign up at createdeconomy.com/guest list or slide into our DMs and let us know. And with that, let's bring on our guest at this time. So in the creator economy, you kind of know there's these benchmark type of companies, and Patreon is one of them. This is not, this has been a company that has started in 2013 by Jack Conte and Sam Yan, and this has grown to be 8 million. There's 8 million subscribers on Patreon now, more than 250,000 creators. It's paid out 3.5 billion to creators to date. And so as we talk about this new era of creator economy, whether it's Web3 or short form video, or how to build these content entrepreneurs, so to speak, I figured to bring on somebody who can help educate us. And with that, I want to introduce you to Avi Gandhi, who is the head of creator partnerships. And he has an amazing story because he's actually fairly new to Patreon. He joined in August 2021, so almost a year. So I'm going to be the first to wish you a happy Patreon-versary. Beat everyone to the gun there. But you also straddle the digital side as within a startup. I don't know if technically Patreon could be considered a startup, but you're also a talent agent. You work for one of the biggest agencies that are out there, the WME, William Morris Endeavor, and you did that for about 3 years. So I'm kind of interested to see how you straddle the two ends of the spectrum here. But before we get started, Avi, why don't you? Thanks for joining. But would you mind introducing yourself to everyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ken. So I'm Avi. So I came to Patreon back in August, but really have a background in entertainment and have dabbled a little bit in tech, mostly on the gaming side. So, as you mentioned, started my career at WME. Was there from 2010 to 2016, started in the mailroom like everyone else does, and climbed my way out and went on to become an agent. And I was one of the first agents in Hollywood to represent what we now think of as creators, right? Digitally native content creators. Back then it was off of YouTube, off of Vine, Pinterest, Instagram and Twitch were rising up. So, but that was when, those creators didn't really have an established business model where, YouTube AdSense was still, limited to creators who were of a certain size. And so it was an interesting time. We were figuring out a lot of the things that now we sort of take for granted today. I left in 2016, got enamored with VR, went into the VR space and in the gaming space, still working with creators and working with companies that wanted to work with creators. And then in 2019, went to Wheelhouse, which is Brent Montgomery and Jimmy Kimmel's production company slash ad agency slash private equity firm, where I started their digital media business, Wheelhouse DNA. And sort of helped scale that into about 15 employees and multi-million-dollar revenue, and then left to come to Patreon.
So in your time, let's go from your beginnings to where you are at Patreon. When you started at WME, what was it? What was the vibe? You talked about looking at digital creators on Vine and YouTube and everything like that. What was the vibe that internal agents viewed these things? So obviously you're seeing a lot more pickup now with things like how YouTube stars are wind up becoming full-fledged celebrities, right? And now you have these but what was it back in the day, or I guess a few years ago?
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 years ago at this point, which is kind of wild to think about. The question I got asked the most was, do they make any money?
Yeah.
Talent agencies and talent agents in general are pretty transactional, right? Their job is to, and legally by definition, their job is to procure work. Go get their clients jobs, book them a role in a movie or on a tour or whatever, and get that done and move on to the next one. And they've got 20, 30, 40 clients, and they're doing that all day, every day. And so we were in the digital group, which at the time when we started representing YouTubers was led by Chris Jackaman, and then we had Dan Porter join and run it. But now I think it's back to Chris Jackaman. But we were really trying to figure out what can these creators do to actually make money, right? They have their AdSense, and like some of them were making at the time what we thought was reasonable money, right? $400,000 or $500,000 a year. It's nothing compared to what like Mr. Beast makes today, probably. But at the time, it was a huge amount of money for creators who weren't getting a check from like some big studio. But they had these audiences that were incredibly active and incredibly engaged. And so we were constantly looking for ways to activate those audiences. And we did book deals. We put them on tour, even though a lot of them didn't necessarily have live shows. So we'd have to partner them with companies that could help them figure out what a live show might actually look like. There was a lot of trial and error, a lot of theory that was then sort of put into practice, but it's fun.
So how did you transition then into becoming a founder, right?
Right.
To becoming the managing director at Wheelhouse, right? I mean, yes, like under the Jimmy Kimmel obviously is a prolific content creator. Obviously it's a celebrity in his own right, and now he knows how to really master the art of what's online. But what was it about Wheelhouse that you couldn't do at WME?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think the thing that I loved that I learned a lot about at Wheelhouse is actually how to make stuff, right? At Wheelhouse, I was a creator. I produced a podcast, or several podcasts actually. Oversaw production of YouTube channels. Still used my kind of agent deal-making brain to like partner with creators and sell and do deals. But agents put pieces together, and then those pieces then sort of make the thing. They make the movie, they make the book, they make the show. But actually doing it is a very different task. And I think, I feel like I have a pretty unique perspective because I've been both on the kind of talent representation side, but I've also made things. I know, that it's not as easy as many people might think to make a podcast good. I know what the actual cost of production can be and how far it can range. And I know that, asking a creator to just make another video is actually a really big ask, because that takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of emotional energy. And so like those are all things that you don't really learn on the deal side. You really only learn when you're making things. And you know, Wheelhouse, like Brent and his partner Ed and all of the other leaders there were all super experienced at making things. And so you know, I was able to bring kind of my experience around strategy and partnerships to help launch that business, and was able to absorb from them the art of creation.
So now you're at Patreon. What was it about Patreon? I mean, what is it that excited you to join almost a year ago, right? I mean, you probably had you look at the landscape in terms of the creator economy. Why not YouTube? Why not Why not any of the big tech firms? What was it about Patreon that really stood out?
It's a great question. I mean, my whole career has been on the side of the creator. You know, even at Wheelhouse, like our goal at DNA was to partner with creators to help them scale their production and their creative. You know, at WME, my mission was to represent creators and help them figure out how to monetize their audiences and make money in as many ways as possible. But I've always been working with kind of the top of the market, because like that's just the nature of being an agent. That's the nature of being a producer. You're looking to partner with the biggest. But there are 50 million creators out there, probably more, and they are all sizes and shapes and types of content and verticals, and you know, whatever descriptor you want to use, whatever thing you can imagine them making, they're making. And you know, the beauty of Patreon is that we have the whole spectrum, and we could benefit a huge number of creators doing a huge number of things, and that to me is really exciting.
Would it be fair to say that as you look at the, you know, if you look at the potential platforms that you may have wanted to join, or that you were that may have wanted to, you know, draw you in, is that what Patreon might offer is something a little bit more of something that's agnostic in terms of the technology that's being used, right? I mean, as you look at with YouTube, it's purely a video play. If you look at Facebook, it's more short form video, but it's like this hodgepodge of thing. It's very much social media play. Twitter is maybe more like tweets and audio and newsletter. But with Patreon, it's like however you want to be, however you want to be a creator, or however you see yourself as a creator, you know, this platform supports you, and that's something that you want to that would help maximize your reach.
Well, so it's not about necessarily maximizing reach, right? Like Patreon is a monetization platform. We're not the place that, as a consumer, you're going to go and find the creator and discover their content and then decide to subscribe, right? Maybe one day in the future, but that's not what we are today. What we are today is a place where you know the creator exists. You've probably watched or listened to or consumed whatever it is they make elsewhere, on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, out in the world, and you loved it and you want more of it. And so you're going to go and you're going to subscribe, because that's how you can get more exclusive content. That's how you can be part of a community, and sort of indulge in that thing that makes you happy. And that's like really what it's about.
Right. So how do you what's your take on the creator economy right now?
In what way? I have lots of takes.
Well, if you had like to highlight 3 interesting trends about what's kind of the state of the creator economy, right? And I'm not talking about the census that you guys released in May. You know, we can talk about the inaugural Patreon census that you guys did a little bit later on. But in general, from your point of view, what would you say would be 3 things that kind of stand out about where the creator economy is headed right now? And I use that, and I'm very broad with that, but because I'm curious to hear what your general thinking is. Like, as you talk to creators, as you work in this industry, are there specific things that kind of stand out to you?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think that, like, first of all, like, creators is not a monolith, right? The problems that a startup creator, right, like a creator that is maybe has 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 followers and is like trying to become full-time, the problems that they have are very different than the problems that like a top of market, very large, multi-million, decamillion scale creator has. And I think a lot of the companies that we see tend to focus on those big creators. They tend to spend all of their time and energy and capital going after those creators, thinking that it'll trickle down. And it might. But your product has to work and be and add value for that long tail in a meaningful way. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many big creators you get if it's not adding value for those small creators. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Everyone keeps talking about how we're like entering a creator economy winter, and like I don't really buy that necessarily. I mean, maybe in terms of startup funding, but what I do think is that like there are a lot of companies out there in this space who don't really know creators that well. They don't really know how to sort of differentiate those problems. They're not really solving an actual problem, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens with a lot of those companies. And I think that like we predicted, well, I say predicted, but like we sort of saw the writing on the walls 10 years ago as like brands started to enter the digital media space, that like, in the old world, brands would spend media on TV and then they would pay a celebrity to be in their advertisement. And but like the celebrity didn't bring any distribution, right? Creators now, they can be in the advertisement, they can make the advertisement, they have audiences that the advertisement can reach. TV is less powerful, has less reach than most of these digital platforms that these creators are on. And so I think we're going to continue to see, dollars shift away from sort of the traditional media ecosystem. And I think that like that's largely going to be a generational shift happening as well, right? As like a generation of leaders who maybe aren't native to digital media kind of age out, and a generation of leaders who have spent more time in the digital space, who's consume more content, become the decision makers. I think we're going to see a lot more money going into that ecosystem.
But something I want to pick up on that is there was a Joe Paluzzi came up with this term called content entrepreneurs, right? And this is something that Greg and I have kind of had this conversation about on the show in the past, in terms of how some creators may not want to be a business, right? They just want to create. And then there's others that want to have it become the Mr. Beast of the world, right? They want to be they want to have all the fame, they want to have all the notoriety, they want to have the brand partnerships, and create this whole entity unto themselves, right? Others just want to do what they do, right? Like, for example, I just want to do this podcast, and I don't have to worry about hiring people. I don't want to do all this other stuff, right? What side is, and I think this is kind of a, and not necessarily put you on the spot, but like what side of the equation are you personally thinking, are you seeing that creators want to be more on the entrepreneurial side? Because I would
Mhm.
imagine that Patreon is probably hedging more towards that side of the spectrum. I mean, obviously from a business strategy and from monetization, but like where are you seeing this? Are you seeing a shift more towards becoming entrepreneurs?
Sorry, I have like an eyelash that's like poking me in the eye.
No.
No, not right now. Yes. So I think that, I think that like by default, if a creator wants to make a living, they're an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean that they need to identify as an entrepreneur. That doesn't mean they need to like, you know, listen to Gary Vee and dive into hustle culture and do any of that stuff, right? Um, they do need to think about how they're going to pay their bills
Right.
as a creator. Patreon can help with that. Um, and by definition, like if they are making money by doing the thing on their own, that's entrepreneurship,
Yep.
right? But like I don't necessarily think that like this sort of identification as an entrepreneur and the culture of speaking to creators like they are entrepreneurs, sure, that works for some, but not every creator is going to say, hey, yeah, I need to have 17 diversified revenue streams, and I've got to have a team of 12 people producing and distributing and doing this and that. Like, no, that's absolutely not the case. I think millions of creators will be very happy doing whatever it is they want to do day in and day out, maybe getting help here and there if they need it, maybe not, and finding ways to monetize through the systems that exist for them to do that, and that makes sense for them.
Yep. So your role at Patreon is the head of creator partnerships. Now, it may seem pretty self-explanatory for some people what that means. Is this, but in a nutshell, would you say it's basically you are in charge of making sure creators are happy on the platform?
I wouldn't put it that way. We actually have a creator success team who sort of work mostly with creators and who are on the platform, and a community happiness team as well. So the team that I am fortunate to lead are responsible for bringing creators onto the platform and helping them be successful and have a good experience as they launch. Because membership is it looks different for every creator. Some creators, it makes sense to have one tier and a specific set of benefits for their fans to subscribe to. Other creators, it makes sense to have 3 tiers with different pricing and different offerings. And some creators are going to have like very hands-on, limited offerings, and others are going to have and need really scalable offerings, and everyone's going to have a different marketing strategy. And so we basically go out and talk to creators, help them understand if membership is right for them, and what it takes, because it is a commitment. It's not something you could just like try, right? And then help them actually execute and get going. And once they've gotten going and they're on the platform and they're happy, then they can keep doing what they're doing. And we have other folks on the team that are there as resources for them if they need it.
So, what are some of the pitfalls that are obstacles or things that creators need to think about as they start to onboard onto Patreon? Right? You talked about things like the different types of tiers you might want for membership, because it's not necessarily something that you want to experiment with right off the bat. You got there's a lot of thinking that needs to go into these type of things. Um, but anyone that and I agree that there's every creator is different in terms of what their needs are, right? It's like for my needs may be different from like the Gary V's or the Mr. Beasts of the world, right? I mean, obviously they have bigger followings. I have a smaller following, but it depends on what my goal is. So, but are there any general steps or insights that you can share to creators who want to join, who want to take advantage of Patreon's programs and offerings, what should they be thinking about as they go in so that their eyes are wide open?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to think about is, I think there's this like misconception that membership and Patreon, membership in general is like about supporting a creator, and that's not the case. And we've surveyed thousands and thousands of our of the fans who are paying creators every single month, and consistently the number one reason that they're subscribing is because they want exclusive access. They want exclusive content. They want exclusive benefits. Like whatever it is they're subscribing to is making them happy. And so it's really important to think about, is what you're offering going to create enough value for your fans? What do your fans want from you? What do they want more of? What do they not get now that they do want? What would they be willing to pay for? Those are the types of things that a creator should start by thinking about, and even ask your fans, right? You can post a poll on Instagram stories or whatever, and just like see what people come back to you with. See if they would pay, see how much they would pay, for what is it that they want? What have you not been giving them that they want you to give them? I think that's like probably the biggest sort of misconception, and also biggest strategic thinking that a lot of creators don't do, because you are ultimately asking your fans to transact on something. They pay you every month, and you give them something in return. So you obviously want to make sure that what you give them is something that is valuable to them. Also, is something that you can sustainably produce. And that's the balance.
Right. So is that setting that expectation in terms of content would be incredibly, I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand with the type of membership that you set. So it's not something that you can rush into. Like, I can't go onto Patreon right now and say, here's my membership program, everyone sign up and do this, without actually knowing who my fans are, and knowing what their tolerance or their preference is in terms of how would they be willing to support me as a creator. It's not something I can do overnight.
I mean, you could, and the beauty of membership is that it can evolve, right? You can start by offering, we had a creator recently who started by offering 3 tiers, and I think I can just say who it is. I mean, Zane and Heath launched last year offering 3 tiers, and after a few months, they realized it wasn't sustainable. There is some things in the top price tier that their fans really wanted, but like the price was too high. There was a lot of content to deliver. It was just too much. So we worked with them. They consolidated into a single tier, and now they're performing super well, and they're super, super happy with their membership. Like, those are the kinds of, and you can do that. And the fans were totally happy with that, right? Lots of our creators evolve the membership over time. And that's the beauty of it, right? Like, the people who are subscribing to you are the ones who are the most passionate about you. So they're not going to be mad if you change things, especially if you're transparent about why. Like, it's a conversation, and these are the ones who are willing to subscribe month in and month out to get more of what you do, that you want to be willing and able to have those conversations with.
So let's talk in terms of the broader landscape. And Patreon has, as I mentioned earlier, Patreon has been this centerpiece of the creator economy, right? And that you look at the subscription side. If you take away from the periphery the big tech platforms, you mean it's Patreon, and then you have OnlyFans. They base those kind of are synonymous with in terms of those membership subscriptions, right?
Sure.
But you're starting to see more, and I'm not to dig too deep into OnlyFans, but the point is that you're starting to see now similar services that are trying to pick away at Patreon's base, right? Whether it's for various reasons. I think it's in my analogy, it's almost like how you look at how LinkedIn has been that place to be a professional social network where you post your resume and everything like that, and then you start to see this flood of new services that are helping you send out your resume, apply for jobs, and those type of things, right? So, what is Patreon's view in terms of these type of services, right? And is there room for these type of things? And what makes, as somebody who leads the creator partnerships, how would you tell creators who are on the fence of, oh, do I might maybe I want to go with startup so and so because they service uh more people like myself, right? And versus going onto Patreon.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, our whole philosophy is to be creator first, and from like a competition perspective, that means encouraging creators to go and check out the competition. You know, we never tell creators don't even bother looking. We say absolutely go see if you can talk to them. Go, check out what their product lets you do. I think we are the biggest of all of these platforms, in large part because creators know that we are the most creator first. There's someone there to talk to them if they need it. And we're also the most flexible, right? Like there's a lot of these sort of emerging competitors are really focused on some niche and their product is built around that, right? Like Substack is great for just writing stuff. Fourth Wall is great for like selling t-shirts or whatever. And so like that's cool for specific creators. And like that's also the case with these like with the mega platforms and their membership offerings, right? Like YouTube channel memberships, you offer videos, and Instagram, you offer pay gated Instagram stories. Like that's great, but what if you want to offer bonus videos and a monthly or a quarterly like piece of merch and a subscription only chat community and a shout out on your birthday once a year? Well, Patreon's the only one that's going to let you do all those things.
Right. So how does Patreon stay one step ahead? I mean, you talked about, and I kind of want to then that leads me into the census that you guys released, your first ever census in May. You guys polled 13,000 creators across 113 countries. Most of them are in North America. What's been publicly announced is that Patreon's working on a native video offering that'll happen hopefully soon. But then 56%. Well, actually, no, I'm gonna skip that one. But top priorities for 2022, according to the census, native video, content organization, and improved posting are the top three. Could you tell us a little bit more in terms of like those particular features? Why are they a top priority, if you can, and how that helps Patreon remain one step ahead of everybody else?
Yeah, our product roadmap is like hugely informed by what creators want, what they ask for, how to improve their experience and their fans' experience, which ultimately improves their experience, right? How to improve their monetization, all of these things. And so, it might be really sexy to announce like, I don't know, big marquee new features. But sometimes the biggest impact can be made just by like making small tweaks to the day-to-day experiences that creators have as the product evolves and as the creator economy evolves. And so that's kind of, that is some of the thinking along those things. And we do have, by the way, big sexy features coming in the pipeline. I can't necessarily preview those here, but like we are doing that as well. But yeah, it's the things that creators like are touching day in and day out that we want to really invest in and make sure are the best.
Could one of those? I mean, you say that there's new features that are coming down the pipe, and you can't really talk about that. But I'm kind of curious: are they related to? There's a section in here on this blog post called "Looking Ahead," And this is obviously the product priorities. And we talked about, and there's a section here called potential future features. You talk about like one-time tipping, gift memberships, customized landing page layouts, uh, you know, more data about where patrons are coming from, et cetera, et cetera. Are those type of things that you're hinting at, you're teasing earlier? Like these are types of, some of the features. Are we talking something a little bit more a little bit more grander?
I would say all of the above.
All of the above?
We have grand plans. Our chief product officer, Julian Gutman, comes from Instagram. He is probably the smartest person I've ever met, and like a brilliant product leader. And the people that we're hiring, we've hired over 100 product and engineering people just in the last year. Like I think we've more than doubled the headcount of our engineering, product, and design teams. From some of the best companies in the world, right? So we are actively building the best product organization in the world, bar none. That's exciting. And all of those brilliant people are coming to Patreon to put their creative and business minds towards the problem of how do we help creators make more money? How do we help them monetize their creative? What can we do to make the product better every day to drive that mission forward and to ultimately fund the creative class as we move towards this vision that we have for a second renaissance. So
one thing that it was noteworthy in that census as well was the mention of crypto payments. And while you see that there's a lot of news hullabaloo around crypto right now, whether you believe it's like, hey, it's just like you got to hold on to it, or there's a crypto winter, whatever. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies in the news a lot, but it seems that, like with gamers, creators don't necessarily want to be paid by crypto. Does that surprise you? According to those that Patreon surveyed, they say they don't. The majority say they don't want crypto payments.
I don't think I would say that it surprises me. Look, like being a creative is risky enough, right? So if you're going to get paid, you probably want to get paid in as low risk a way as possible. If you were paid in Ethereum in November, you would be pretty upset right now, right? And so. And obviously, like we have inflation, so the dollar's getting less valuable, blah blah blah. But like, didn't get as like it didn't drop as much as Ethereum did. So I think like it's not that surprising, given that just taking the leap to become a full-time creator is such a big leap. It's such a brave thing for people to do, to follow that dream. I'm not at all surprised that they want to have some level of stability within whatever sort of monetization, revenue, income framework that they have.
Right. Do you see this as any sort of like small indictment in terms of Web3 and the creator economy? Because I think, and I'm not necessarily create controversy, and I recognize that Web3 and crypto are not necessarily not 100% apples to apples, right? But I mean, but there are some that are that they're saying Web3 is help give rise to the new this current age of the creator economy. So I'm kind of curious, like, is this any sign of that? As Jack Conti has said that Patreon's looking into Web3, those type of things. So kind of seeing if there's any insights you might have on that.
So I mean, look, like any tech company in like this time when everyone's talking about Web3, like, yes, we are thinking about Web3. Mm-hmm. Are we actually do we have any active plans? Not to my knowledge, but we are investing in it, or investigating it, because it would be irresponsible of us not to. Like personally, how do I think about the space? I think there's potentially interesting opportunities in Web3 for creators. I think again, not speaking for Patreon now, I'm speaking for myself, but I think like personally, the most interesting thing I've seen in Web3 is like the potential for, structures like DAOs to enable creators to, you know, get funding and involve their communities in the production of content and pay them back through those structures in like a semi-automated way without having to go through the gatekeepers that traditional creative financing requires, right? Like if you want to make a documentary or a podcast or whatever, like you've got to find someone to pay for that. And that's not always easy. And if you don't have the network or whatever, then you might not be able to find them. But Web3 could potentially enable that for some creators. Do I think that like it's the solution for every creator's problems ever? I don't think we're there yet. I mean, maybe in 5 years, maybe, I don't know. That's kind of my sense on it.
Okay. Cool. So let's switch gears once again. You're in Los Angeles, correct? So this week is VidCon. VidCon is coming back to Southern California, first time since the pandemic started. Are you going?
I'll be there on Friday. Yeah,
you'll be there on Friday.
We have an activation at the Hyatt, and so I will be hanging out there and just saying hi to everyone I see. I love VidCon. Obviously didn't the last few years with the pandemic and everything was sort of shot, but I've been to like 4 or 5 VidCons over the years, and like it's just like one of my favorite events to go to, because like the community, both on the creative side, but also on the industry side, is so close. It's like it feels like you're just going to like a summer camp almost. You're hanging out with all your friends and seeing people you don't see that often and catching up and getting drinks and like going to parties, and like it's a blast. So I'm excited to go on Friday.
Are there any interesting, and I know you said that you're going to be there on Friday. There's that Patreon has an activation. Is there anything that you're hoping to hear from the show, right? Even as on the periphery, as you might, be going about your day, like you might be looking on Twitter or seeing on LinkedIn or somebody sends you an email. It's like, hey, there's this interesting thing that happened at VidCon. Is there anything that kind of like, what is your expectation or what do you hope to hear or see at VidCon? Any predictions?
I don't really have any predictions. I think, for me personally, I think VidCon is less about like the panels and the news and the announcements and that kind of thing. And it's more about the people, and connecting with, other, industry track people, connecting with creators, building relationships, and having the opportunity to like be face-to-face. I mean, the news will come out in Tube Filter and I'll read it there, and that'll be that. But the opportunity to see people that I maybe haven't seen in a long time, especially after the last couple of years, like that's really exciting for me. Are you going?
Oh, unfortunately, no, I won't be. At one point, at 1 year, I will definitely have to go. It's just with the travel and everything right now. It's unfortunately I won't be able to be there. But I know a lot of friends that are going there, whether having parties or networking events or whatever. And I kind of think of it very similar to what you're talking about, how you see VidCon as this place where you can see everybody. It's like this big family gathering. That's almost how I viewed South by Southwest years ago. You go and yes, the sessions there, the panels there were great. Yes, they're informative, but the real knowledge and value I got, at least from going to South by Southwest, was being out there. You go to the parties, but it's purely there to network, and you get a free drink and food. That's added bonus. But you be able to network and meet with VCs, with entrepreneurs, your peers, and you grow that community. And I think that's that can be certainly an empowering thing. And I think that, I hear a lot about that at VidCon, especially, what would happen when you have, tens of thousands of creators all in one giant, conference center. Like what could possibly go wrong? So
I mean, I remember like when I went 2012 maybe, and I think PewDiePie was like just becoming like the biggest creator in the world.
Mhm.
Or maybe at the time actually it was Smosh. Smosh was the biggest creator in the world, and they were there, and like I saw them across the the square, if you will, or across the convention center, and like the mob of teenage girls. Like I was actually kind of worried, like with some like like they needed security. I mean, this was like before there was ever security at these meet and greets or at VidCon, and like they were like running to try to get into the backstage area, and like literally hundreds of teenage girls were like screaming and running after them, and that was like for me when it like clicked. I was like, oh, like these people have power.
Right.
They have like real like influence and like the love of their fans, and more than I think any movie star probably has.
So as you look at it, like, I mean, you look at the 4 or 5 years that you've been there, and have you noticed any type of shift? Like, you can look at, kind of going back to South by Southwest, you can kind of see that it went from social media to now VR and Web3 and everything like that. As you look at the evolution of VidCon in terms of whether it's the programming or the type of creators that are out there, or what they do, the types of creators, are you noticing a shift? Because, case in point, TikTok is the title sponsor. Like it basically ousted YouTube. Like that in of itself is big news, because it's kind of ushers in this new, you know, royalty, if you will, right? So
Yeah.
are there any things that you see like this, anything that you've seen in terms of how VidCon has evolved that's kind of showing the evolution of the space?
Well, I don't think I've been since Viacom acquired them.
Mhm.
It was Viacom that acquired them, right?
Yeah, Viacom. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
And then COVID happened, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what the vibe is like
Mhm.
now having a corporate owner. Like when I went, one of the times that I went, like Vine was just becoming big.
Right.
But the creators who are on Vine weren't like still part of the in crowd, right? Like YouTube was the it platform. I mean, this was like what, 2013,
Something,
2014.
yeah, something like that. 20, yeah. 20.
So it's like really interesting to see now that like TikTok is the title sponsor, and the TikTok creators are the in crowd. And, I don't know what drives that. Like maybe it's just money, right?
Yeah.
But I think it'll be very interesting to see, and I'm kind of looking forward to like observing how it has changed over like the last several years, and also with a new owner, right? Because it was, Hank and John Green, and they're like some of the most prolific creators on the planet, and so it was a very creator centric and fan centric event where like the industry stuff was almost like secondary, right? There was like one day for industry, and the rest of it was for fans and creators. And it was like Thursday, I think. And so now I'm pretty sure like the industry track is the whole time, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, back then there were also not that many people in the industry, right? There was, a handful of companies, right? The MCNs and a couple of analytics companies, and like that was it.
Yeah. MCNs are basically gone or got gobbled up. So, now it's Now
Yeah.
you basically have the Facebooks, Instagrams, the Substacks.
Yeah, you've got all these creator economy monetization companies. There's a lot more companies that are providing services,
Mhm.
and like SaaS companies targeting creators. Obviously, like all of the hardware companies have moved into the creator space, right? Like making cameras and mics and other accessories for creators. So there's just like the whole ecosystem has exploded around them. Yeah, it's definitely changed, but I think all for the better for creators.
Yeah. So speaking of better for creators, I know we're running short on time here. Let's talk in terms of those that are looking at technology platforms, right? Up and coming creators who say, I see all these bells and whistles, these shiny objects. I want to be a part of it. Yes, I want to be on YouTube. Yes, I want to be on Instagram. Yes, I want to be on, I want to be on Patreon because I just want to have an account on Patreon. I want to have a Substack, or, you know, be on Fourth Wall, set up a Shopify or whatever. What is it about? What advice would you give them, these creators, in terms of evaluating technology platforms and choosing the right ones for them? And I get that experimenting is cool, but what should they be really looking into to say this is something that meets your objective?
Well, first thing, if you want to keep talking, I'm happy to keep talking. Don't worry about the time. I could talk about this stuff all day. It's a good question, though. I mean, I think something that I think can happen is that creators can get oversaturated, right? I mean, first off, if you try to produce everything everywhere, you're going to burn out. Unless you've got unlimited energy. And there are a few creators that have unlimited energy.
Yeah.
But most creators don't. And so picking and choosing where to invest your energy, what has the highest ROI, I think is super critical. And it depends on the kind of creator you are. It depends on what your goals are. Like one example, right, is that there's creators who I would argue are more kind of media type creators. Maybe they're really good at gaming or creating for YouTube's algorithm or TikTok's algorithm, and they can get millions of views on a video. And everyone knows their name because they've seen some viral video that this creator's made, and it's very entertaining. And like those creators are fantastic at monetizing through advertising, through brands. They can charge $500,000, $1 million for a brand integration because they're guaranteeing 5 to 10 million views. That creator is a media company, basically, right? That creator is like the equivalent of MTV. But if that creator tries to sell something, you might predict them selling millions and millions of dollars, but it probably won't. It actually probably will only sell tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And like, that's a lot of money, but if you make $1 million for a brand deal, is it worth your time to design t-shirts and like go and find a partner and promote it to your fans to make like $50,000 or $100,000 on that? Probably not, right? And so like understanding what your thing is, understanding what your niche is, what your business model is, and then really hyper focusing on that model is super critical.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's why Jack started Patreon, right? Like not every creator is going to be able to make even a living on ad dollars or brand dollars, much less, get rich on it. But those creators, maybe they get a couple thousand views per video or downloads of the podcast, but the fans that are doing it every week are like hardcore. Like they know that they're part of a small community. They know that this is like their thing. They feel ownership in it because like everyone who is part of some small community feels like they have ownership in that, and they're willing to pay for it, right? And so like that could be the business model. And if that creator tried to build an ad model and tried to spend energy going after brand deals and trying to game the TikTok algorithm or whatever, like it's just not going to work, It's not the kind of content they make. It's not like who they are or what their content is about, right? And so like, I'm a big fan of like the ancient Greek epithet, know yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that all creators need to really do, is like to understand who they are, what their content is, who their content is serving, how it's serving them, and like extrapolate from there how best to spend their time.
So speaking of, know thyself, I think something that is plaguing, the creators these days is burnout, right? I think especially, with the pandemic, people feel like they always have to be on. These creators have to always churn out copy or churn out content, churn out videos or music or podcasts or whatever. Like there's a bit, obviously there's that adrenaline rush of saying, hey, I get to, interview X, Y, and Z. I got this whole schedule lined up. Great. But then there's so much additional, I wonder if the fans actually know the additional work that goes on behind the scenes. So, you hear that with, uh, the big tech platforms. Is that do you experience that as well at Patreon, or is it slightly different at Patreon because of the membership? You set that expectation with those that are with your patrons, right? That as a creator, I can set that expectations. If you're paying upper the most expensive tier, for example, you're going to get a new video once a week, but the other people might get just once a month, for example. I mean,
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, burnout is an endemic issue now for the creator space. I think the value, well, there's many values, but like one of the big values of membership is stability, right? Like the people who are paying you are your biggest fans, and they value your content and they pay you for that content or that community that you're offering them. And so, there's no algorithm that's going to penalize you if you don't post X number of times every week and comment on every single post. And, if you look at like the leaks and the gurus posting about like, this is how you game the Instagram algorithm, like, you have to do what? You have to like use every single product feature. You have to post on Reels 3 times a week, and you have to do a live stream twice a week, and you have to make a feed post once a week, and you have to do a story or 2 or 3 every single day. And it's like, who has time for that? But you have to do that in order for the algorithm to push you out there and grow your audience. And your audience has to keep growing in order for it to stay engaged, and in order for, and all of that leads to brand dollars, right? So like, that's the hard part about being a media company. Like, you are always on. It's the problem that TV networks have. Like, they just have to keep paying for new content, because if they don't have some fresh new content, then the viewers are going to go to a different network. TV networks an old, like a dated example now, right? It's the problem that Hulu has, because if they don't keep making fresh content, then their subscribers are going to go to Amazon, right? That's less the case with membership, because membership is a conversation between creators and their fans. It is a contract in some ways, right? You are, like, as a creator, you are committing, and you're asking for payment, and you are committing to deliver value for that payment. But like, these are the people who care most about you and about what you make and what you do. And there's an opportunity to be transparent. You can pause billing for a month if you want to go on vacation or whatever. Like, there's a lot more freedom and flexibility. And like, should you probably also post on other platforms? Sure. Because you want to keep, that top of funnel. You want to keep your, fans who are not paying engaged and excited, because one day maybe they will. But you don't have to do the dance. You don't have to do it the way that someone whose entire living comes from maintaining and growing on that platform does. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the final question I have, and there's plenty more I would love to talk to you more about, hopefully on a future episode. But let's talk in terms of these creator funds, right? And you know, in a way, and a disclosure, I participated in Twitter Spaces Spark program. So I've been a beneficiary of these type of programs before. Uh, Patreon doesn't offer that. Patreon does not have a creator fund. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, Patreon's entire purpose is to pay creators. So we
Right.
don't need to offer a fund. Creators are taking anywhere from 88 to 92% of the revenue that's
Right.
coming.
Yeah, and yeah, so you charge Patreon takes 9 to 12% of the month of their monthly of a creator's monthly income. Uh,
8 to 12.
8 to 12. Oh, sorry, my well, I think that was Crunchbase is wrong.
No worries, no worries.
Somebody is wrong. Anyways, but I corrected that. Anyways, so 8 to 12%. But then you look at the big tech platforms and how they're trying to move people over. And I think the advantage that these big tech platforms have is obviously the network effect. They've been established, they've been around for decades. So they have a massive base. However, how many people are actually creating that type of content as opposed to creating just between amongst friends or whatever, as opposed to like, I don't care about posts on my Facebook going to, over 1 billion people. I honestly don't care. But like, if it reaches my direct circle, great. That's all I care about.
But
But
you
now,
got to pay for that for
yeah,
Facebook, right? Like
yeah,
it'll only reach 10% of your followers unless you pay Facebook to feed it to the
exactly.
rest of them.
And so you see, like with Instagram and Twitch and Snap and Twitter and LinkedIn, they're launching these type of creator funds, and some are doing it well, some are not doing it so much. We know those different types of controversies, and I think the habit is it's very much like a drug. Once those creator funds go away after a 3 month period or wherever, creators like, okay, I'm moving on to somewhere else, wherever they can get me the money. So I think you kind of pointed it out, but I'm interested in your take in terms of how Patreon views these type of programs amongst these more established social platforms versus what you guys are doing. And is there a right way or is there a wrong way? How should creators, they look at these two things? I'm like, which is the best way? Which is the wrong way? Is there a good or a bad, or is it just buyer beware? Take whichever choice you choose.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a hot take, which I can't say is Patreon's position, but I'm pretty sure Jack would agree if he was here. Like, I think creator funds are BS. Like, I think platforms, all these platforms are making billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars off of the work, the creative and production work that creators are doing to distribute on those platforms, and then they're saying, here, take some of the leavings. Like, come on. It's like Hank Green had an amazing TikTok post about where he like duetted Adam Mosseri from Instagram, and Adam Mosseri is saying like, oh, we have this challenge, we have to figure out how to pay creators, and Hank Green's like, you made $24 billion last year. The challenge you have is how to pay creators without sharing any of that $24 billion. And like, yeah, that's that's the reality. The reality is like TikTok could pay creators out of their revenue, and to their credit, they say they're going to. So I look forward to that day that TikTok actually does that. Instagram could do that tomorrow. They just don't want to. And like, that's also part of why, I would much rather join Patreon than, or I wanted to join Patreon over any of those other companies, right? Like even YouTube, to their credit, YouTube is the best place that is a major platform to monetize. They still take 45%. Mm-hmm. And that has been an issue for a decade. This was something that Hank Green was writing about 10 years ago. So, like all these creator funds are just talk. It's just like they're pittances relative to the value that these creators are actually creating for the platforms, because no one's actually also talking about the fact that like, hey, yeah, like Instagram's making $24 billion in revenue, but like, what about the stock? Like, what about how much value that 24 billion actually means to Mark Zuckerberg and to Facebook shareholders, right? Like, there's so much value being created that isn't just the cash transaction value, and like creators are the ones creating all of that.
Cool. Well, Avi, thanks so much for joining me on this episode of the Created Economy. For those that are watching and listening, where can they find more information about you? Should they just check you out on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and I do post quite a bit there. I'm also on, I don't really post that much on Twitter, but I'm like kind of sometimes on Twitter, at Avi Gandhi. I'm on Instagram as well. Also, I think this is kind of funny. Like, I realized it like 10 minutes into the interview, and then was like, I don't know what to do about this, but maybe for people who listen all the way to the end, it's a treat. But like, I've got these headphones and this mic right in front of me, but I never put the settings on headphone and mic. So like, I'm talking into the I'm talking to the computer speaker or a computer mic, and like the audio is coming out of my like speakers, and like I wasn't gonna take them off halfway through because like it'd be like kind of shady. So just I was amused the whole time about it. I was like, man, like face palm. But
Avi, joke's on you. This mic's not even plugged in. No, I get. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I'm like, wait. He's like, why is this plug? Oh crap.
Yeah, I was like, I can't really hear my voice. Wait, it's coming out of the speaker. Oh yeah. No.
Well, the most embarrassing thing, at least I did, is I started doing a recording. So I did the normal intro to the show, and I realized my mic was entirely on mute for like a good 2 minutes. So, and it was all live. So I was like, great. So so it could always be worse. So don't worry, it'll come out great. But thank you so much for joining the show. Looking forward to hearing more about Patreon, and have fun at VidCon this week.
Awesome.
All right, everybody. No worries. And with that, we will bid you adieu. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.